GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the SimSpeed TV network for Week 10, Season 4 of the Just Send It iRacing series. Something a bit different for you tonight. Just Send It action coming to you on Friday. Unfortunately, it had to get postponed due to some technical issues during the regular Tuesday night time slot. Tonight we're at the Road Atlanta circuit. We're in Chevrolet NASCARs. And joining me in commentary for this very special edition of Just Send It from across the ditch in New Zealand, it's Cameron Dance. How are you going, Cameron?
Yeah, doing all right. It's going to be actually a very, very fascinating race tonight, I think, because these cars don't really go on road courses, more or less. They're obviously more catered to the oval sort of stuff. So it's going to be really fascinating to see what happens here and who's actually going to come out on top, because you've got those first two places of ending up in the All-Star Shootout, possibly.
Indeed. So All-Star Shootout coming up on Sunday, and there are a number of drivers who are already locked into it. The highest placed two drivers who are not already in the shootout tonight will get those wild card spots. Here's your grid positions: Cooper Webster and Job Stewart on the front row, Jordan Caruso and Ethan Warren on row 2, back to Blake Purdy, Mitch McLeod, Thomas McMillan and Luke Pink, James Golding and Jamie Craig completing your top 10.
You have Matt Morris, Emerson Harvey on row 6, Steve Jansen and Ryan Wood on row 7, row 8, Kobe Williams and Lockie Dalton, Lachlan Manif and Ivan Vitagio on row 9, and Jackson Johnson and Jordan Mulak rounding out the top 20 on row 10.
Over the page we go. Slightly smaller field tonight because of the fact that we are racing on it Friday night. Ruben Goodall, Ashley Lear, back to Japert Anwill, Ryan Ullman in 24th position, Nick Scaraju, one of our commentators, out of position 25, Jake Maloney, winner of the Phillip Island 500 V8 Scots round last weekend. He'll go from 26th position. And we've got Clint Shane Smith and Brady Baldwin completing your 28-car field. So, forming up in side-by-side formation, ready for the rolling start. Back to just the single race format tonight. 1 40-minute race, which will have a randomly determined number of safety cars between 0 and 2. And we were talking just off-air before the start, Cameron, that on fuel, the cars should be able to make it through the entire 40 minutes, but it'll be tyres that'll be the determining factor when it comes to pit strategy.
Yeah, it certainly will be. It'll be interesting to see what happens here in terms of pit strategy, but we are away in racing, and so far it's actually been a pretty clean start by everybody by the looks of it.
We're hearing that the green flag may not have actually flown yet, but drivers are certainly looking like they're racing at this stage. We're waiting for confirmation on exactly what the story is with that one. There is the safety car still on the circuit. So, bit of a haphazard start here, Cameron.
Yeah, that's a really, really odd one, what's actually happened there in terms of the safety car. I mean, we knew it was going to be a rolling start, but it's very, very odd that the pace car was actually across the start-finish line, and everybody was parked up waiting, ready to get the wrong start going on the back straight.
Yeah, that's a weird one. So we might just have to wait for the field to reassemble behind the safety car before we can get a race start. Just having a look at my timing system, and according to timing, the race has not actually officially started at this point either. So while we wait for the race to officially get underway, let's just have a look at the drivers who are already locked into the All-Star Shootout, which will be a series of heat races and a final. It's an annual event that takes place on the iRacing platform. Jake Burton, Jordan Caruso, Dane Warren, Andrew Gilliam, Cooper Webster, Bailey Sweeney, Jake Maloney, Harley Haber, Adam Briggs, Corey Shepherd, Luke Pink, Tom Freer, Kurt Stenberg, Brady Myers. They're the 14 drivers already locked into the All-Star Shootout. 2 more drivers to come out of tonight's Just Send It field to join those drivers in at the All-Star Shootout, as it looks like now we are going to actually get the race underway.
Yeah, we certainly are, and looking like everybody's made it pretty much cleanly through that final corner, which can be a bit of a challenge in these cars, but single file for the most part at the front of the field. Luke Pink and Thomas McMillan side by side up the hill. There's a few others as well just outside the top 10, but clean start for the most part at least.
Oh, a bit of an incident. Ruben Goodall and I think the number 10 car of Jackson Johnston might have been involved back there as well. Those two cars making contact and firing off the road. Good start from our race leader, Cooper Webster, in the number 37 car. He's been able to open up a bit of breathing space over Job Stewart in second position. Blake Purdy in third spot at this stage. And then we go back to Ethan Warren, another one of the V8 Scops regular competitors, who is joined by Mitchell McLeod, also running the plain black livery on his Chevy NASCAR.
Yes, certainly, and all these drivers using the drive now to their advantage on this back straight, and Blake Purdy trying to go for a move up the inside of Ethan Warren. He's got that done very, very early as well, so not too much of a fight put up there by Ethan Warren, and these guys are really going to have to think about how they battle, but Warren coming back at him up across the top of the hill, down side by side, down the hill through the final corner, and Warren is going to take the place back off Purdy, and you can see them all getting sideways on the exit of the final corner. It just shows how much power these things have, and now a little grip too.
Yeah, good racing between those drivers, and the thing is though that while they're battling, they will be chewing up their tyres, and it's something that we will be talking about over the course of this race, because the quickest way to get from the start to the finish is to come in and do a stop for tyres. Ideally, you would think that you'd do that at around halfway through the race, so you are splitting the tyre wear evenly across two separate sets of tyres.
Yeah, certainly. It's probably the optimum strategy that you'd want to do, or even maybe an overcut to try and have as fresh as possible tyres at the end so you've got something to fight with. But it's all really going to depend on what happens in the safety car. Is moves still going on between Blake Purdy and Ethan Warren. They're still battling against each other pretty hard. And Luke Pink's even going to get involved in this now. Mitchell McLeod's right on the tail of them as well. You can just see Luke Pink sitting behind, waiting for a move to happen here, and he just can't quite seem to do it. Blake Purdy's going to have to be on the inside, nearly making contact. A little bit of panel rubbing there on the exit, and Luke Pink is going to go on through past Blake Purdy, and Ethan Warren's going to come out ahead, and now it's going to be three wide, nearly coming through the final corner between Golding, McLeod, and McMillan. Very, very action-packed racing out here currently, but all sorts going on really in this little mid-pack, as they're not leaving anything on the table, and they're still going at it as Emerson Harvey, James Craig, getting shuffled out to the outside by Mitchell McLeod as well. Blake Purdy trying to find a way up the S's at the moment. Lachlan Manef deciding to come down onto the lane. So the first of the pit is now starting to happen, but you can see all sorts going on just outside this top 10 as well. Matt Morris trying to find a way up the inside of Emerson Harvey, but not going to be able to do it. And we'll sit in behind for the time being, but it's going to do the crossover and get it onto the back straight. But Harvey probably going to have momentum on the exit as Morris gets very sideways on the exit and is going to probably lose two positions in one go here if he's not careful to Ryan Wood and Steve Jansen, who's also trying to put a move on Ryan Wood here.
Yeah, apologies for that. Just a slight technical glitch at my end, but I should be back with you now. Interesting to see a few cars coming into the pits there, including Lachlan Manef, who I suggested might have a bit of damage. In terms of strategy, you probably don't want to be coming into the pits this early on because, like I say, you've got that tyre wear factor that we were talking about before. If you come in now, it'll leave you with too far to go on the second set of tyres, as we see a spin from Matt Morris in the number 25 car.
It looked like a little bit of contact between himself and I believe it was Ryan Wood as well. He turned into the corner and unfortunately Wood had his nose there ever so slightly, and contact was eventually made and Norris managing to get going again, but he's dropped well down the order all the way behind Brady Bowen now, so he's just inside the top, well, just outside the top 10.
And we've got dramas here for Emerson Harvey. Huge damage to his car. You could see it crabbing sideways down the racetrack, so I can only imagine that he's had a shunt somewhere around the circle. We ride on board. Oh, bang!
Oh.
There it is right there. They got served big time by whoever was in that other car that had gone off. It was Jamie Craig, in fact, in the number 17 that was having his own off-track moment. Here's another look at it. So, yep, as Jamie Craig's tried to get back on the circuit, he's overcorrected and nailed the side of Emerson Harvey's car. And big damage to both those cars, and they're back in the pits as well.
Yeah, not too ideal to end up getting hit as hard as he did. As Golding scrapping with McMillan here as well as McLeod, and McLeod's going to go around the outside of McMillan here at the final corner. 2 wheels in the dirt by McLeod to try and hold it around the outside, and they're still going to be side by side on the way into turn 1 here, and McMillan going to take the position, and McLeod nearly losing the rear end on the inside curb.
Good hard racing. Mitchell McLeod, though, has actually fallen back a bit from where he started. As we walk a bit further up the road, Luke Pink, one of the young guns of the sim racing scene, drives for the Evolution Racing team, battling it out with Blake Purdy from the Pursuit sim racing outfit at the moment. Cooper Webster, your race leader by 3.7 seconds. But remember, Cooper Webster, he's already in the All-Star shootout, so his spot's already secure. It's the likes of Job Stewart, Ethan Warren, Luke Pink and Blake Purdy, who are all going to be vying for the other 2 wildcard spots in the shootout.
Yeah, so it's not really going to be all about who wins the race. It's all about going to be about those final 2 places, 2nd and 3rd, that you're going to be wanting to try and hunt down. As Blake Purdy had a massive sideways moment onto the back straight there earlier on, getting right out sideways in full opposite lock, I'm pretty sure, based on how sideways he was. But, the less back to this battle just inside the top 10 between Ryan Wood and now Jake Maloney, all over the back of Ryan Wood here. Maloney very, very accomplished in these cars, so he'll be able to try and find a way by quickly and should be able to do it very, very cleanly as well. And they've got Stevie Ensign just ahead of them. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly Maloney can find a way on by and not too far off the top 10 as well. So not doing too bad of a job considering he started in P26 as well.
Oh, another car, Blake Purdy it is, who goes off the road this time. So we saw that he was up battling with Luke Pink, but he's made a mistake, Blake Purdy, and he's gone off the racetrack. Here's how it happened.
Yeah, it's just locked in inside front by the looks of him, pushed way out wide, struggled to pull the car up, and then unfortunately once you're on the grass you're sort of doing a bit of ice skating in the race car, so managed to get back on the surface nice and safely, but he's lost a lot of time and a lot of positions as well as a result.
When you look at the attitude on these cars and you look at just how much rear wheel spin they're getting out of some of the corners and how much they're sliding around, you can understand why they're chewing through their tyres so aggressively. Purdy 8th, Ryan Wood and Jake Maloney behind him. Maloney actually started this race from the back of the grid, but he has charged his way up through the field, already up inside the top 10. So Jake Maloney, who's coming off the high of winning the Phillip Island 500 V8 Scops round last weekend alongside Richard Havstead in the Trans-Tasman Racing Commodore, carrying that momentum into proceedings here in Just Send It tonight.
Yeah, certainly. Using that high of what happened last weekend to his advantage to carry the speed that he's got tonight to get a pretty decent result to drive through the field like he has at the moment. Probably going to be the biggest mover as well tonight based on where he started and where he's probably going to finish. But Job Stewart has his hands full at the moment with Ethan Warren, who's all over the back of that NASCAR Mustang, and it's really, really close between these two, and they've actually got Luke Pink not too far behind as well, so all it's going to require is these two to come together, but we've got a caution.
Well, this is interesting. So the safety car comes out with just over 9 minutes elapsed, still more than half an hour to go in this race. Now, normally in Just Send It, we would say that if you've got your pit stop out of the way, you've got an advantage because the field bunches up and everybody has to come on into the pits after a lap behind the safety car because the pit entry closes when the safety car's first deployed. But with the high tyre degradation tonight, I'm not quite so sure about that. We've still got 3/4 of the race to go. And yeah, I don't know if actually you might be better off hanging out on the track a bit longer, getting closer to halfway into the race. Of course, then you'll have fresher tyres towards the end. It'll be interesting to see what people do here.
Yeah, it certainly will. I actually wouldn't be surprised if we possibly see people doing 2 stops to try and get some sort of tyre advantage. I mean, pitting now, if you pit now and those who stay, it will probably be at quite a disadvantage with the fact that they're going to be on so much older tyres at this point. But yeah, it's a really tricky one because of the fact that you want that track position, but you also want those new tyres. So really it's going to be fascinating to see who stays out here and who comes in to get their pit stop out of the way.
So the safety car picks up our race leader, Cooper Webster, who also does hold the fastest lap of the race at this stage. 1 minute 23.3. The only cars that have really come down pit road so far have been the cars that have had damage. So the highest placed of the cars that has done a pit stop at this point is Emerson Harvey in 18th position. But of course, we saw that he got caught up in that incident with Jamie Craig and damaged his car, which was why he came into the pits at that point.
Yeah, so obviously they've got the advantage of having pitted, but again, their tyres are, while the tyres are going to be slightly newer than majority of the field ahead of them, it's really going to be interesting to see how much of a difference there's going to be in terms of tyre wear compared to those who have pitted already and those who are going to be pitting under the safe car, especially with the fact that it's about, depending on who it is, about 3 or so laps difference.
A few cars just driving past the safety car at the moment, and then the cars that have been waved around to get themselves back onto the lead lap. And it's one of the good things about the safety car rules in iRacing is that people who've gone a lap down, it does give them the opportunity to go round and get back onto the lead lap and get themselves back into the race. And so here we go, coming up towards the pit entry section of the racetrack. Let's see who comes in at this stage. Looks like a few drivers fainting, but Cooper Webster, our race leader, has decided to come in. Interestingly enough, Job Stewart has stayed out on the racetrack, so Job Stewart will assume the lead of the race at this stage. James Golding is in, so too Mitchell McLeod, Blake Purdy, Jake Maloney all coming down pit road. Job Stewart, Ethan Warren, Luke Pink and Thomas McMillan, they've all stayed out on the racetrack. So a few varying strategies coming into play here, Cameron.
Yeah, certainly. It's really going to mix this field up, especially with the fact that some of these quicker drivers are going to be having to work their tyres actually quite hard to try and pass a number of these drivers. And you've got the likes of a few different drivers who really are going to mix this field up with the fact that they're going to have either a lot of cars to pass or just cruise on out front. So yeah, it's really going to be fascinating to see the difference between 9-lap-old tyres and brand new tyres. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a number of these drivers that have pitted charge to the field very, very quickly in a few laps, or whether those who are still out the front and stayed out are actually not going to be in too bad of a position at the moment.
I think there'll be a bit of chaos at the restart here because all of the drivers who've got fresh tyres, they'll have a pace advantage over the cars that have chosen not to pit, but they're at a track position at disadvantage. So Cooper Webster, the highest placed of the drivers who's just come down pit road, he's back to 11th. And interestingly enough as well, Emerson Harvey, who we already saw in the pits earlier in the race, he has also elected not to pit, so he's moved up to 9th position. However, his tyres are going to be 5 laps old when the race restarts. So he will have fresher tyres than the cars ahead of him, but tyres that are not as fresh as the cars behind him. So Emerson Harvey is sort of halfway in between on strategy at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. So he's not actually in that bad of a position in terms of having that difference between brand new and too old of tyres. So it's probably going to help him here off this restart, but it's also really going to make a challenge when these quicker drivers who are on brand new tyres and have just pitted are coming on through. But that said, it's probably not a bad thing to let those drivers on through and just follow them through to use their pace and their gap that they've got to the advantage. But we're back to green flag racing and a very, very nice jump from Job Stewart there.
Yeah, good reaction there. Got on the power just before the final corner, so he accelerates away. Whoa, one car out very wide. and in the wall coming out of that last corner. Nick Scaraju, that is. We regularly hear his dulcet tones during the Panorama Drivers Club races here on the SimSpeed TV network, but he's completely misjudged that race start and a bit of contact between a few other cars as well.
Yeah, there's a little biff and barge off that restart. McMillan, one of those drivers who had an incident into turn one, but you can see Cooper Webster, James Golding, Steve Jansen all scrapping it out. Golding getting the elbows out and shoving Jansen off the road slightly to get the move done. But Webster is past Ruben Goodall now, so there is that pace differential just behind James Golding, sending it up the inside of Blake Purdy as well. So it's really going off here just outside that top 10 with those drivers who have brand new tyres, and Maloney is really going to be going hard here to try and find a way on by Blake Purdy, and they're going to be 2x2 down the back straight here.
And here's the battle for the lead as well. So Job Stewart and Ethan Warren, we saw that they were battling just before the safety car was deployed, and Ethan Warren gets his nose in front. Nice manoeuvre there on Job Stewart to take the lead of the race. He went to the outside heading into that chicane, put him on the inside for the second part of the chicane. So Nathan Warren moves on through to the front. Cooper Webster, though, charging his way up through the field, already up into make that fifth position, having restarted in 11th. So it's only taken him about a lap to move back up into the top 5. And it's on back in the pack as well. Look at Mitchell McLeod. He's got pace and he's trying to make up spots, but the road in front of him completely blocked by cars running 2 and 3 wide.
Yeah, he's got a solid train of cars ahead of him of Blake Purdy, Maloney, Golding, Harvey, all scrapping with each other at the moment, trying to find ways past each other. And McLeod's just in the roadblock at the moment with all these drivers ahead of him, and just ahead Emerson Harvey having a move done on him by James Golding. So Golding up another place and now into 8th position. Maloney up the inside of Harvey, and he's ahead of Harvey now. So Harvey's starting to drop down the order with those slightly older tyres that he's got. But Maloney was actually slowed there. He's had a problem, not quite sure what's happening here, but 3 wide down the back straight. With McLeod being there, and Harvey decides to back out of it and think smarter of it. But Maloney trying to find a way on by Mitchell McLeod, and McLeod backs out of it ever so slightly.
That was a pretty nervous moment there on the back straight with cars running 3 wide, and Jake Maloney's gone straight ahead through that chicane over the grass. I reckon he might have some technical dramas, in fact, because it's the second time that he's been slowed up or gone off the road. So, and a spin for James Golding as well. So another driver who was charging his way up through the field. James Golding was hot on the tail of some of those other cars that pitted, but he's copped a tap and he's been sent into the fence.
Yeah, Blake Purdy really left with nowhere to go. Not quite actually sure what happened there to James Golding through the chicane, but we'll see Purdy trying to find a way on by and just clipping the left rear, and unfortunately Golding sent into the wall into a bit of a spin. Luckily he managed to recover not too badly, but is in pit lane, is going to drop right down to the back of the order.
So just to give you an idea, last lap time around for our race leader Ethan Warren was 1 minute 24.0. Cooper Webster, who is obviously on fresher tyres, 1 minute 22.6, and that was despite the fact that Cooper Webster was having to negotiate his way through some traffic. So quite a considerable pace advantage from Webster on those fresher tyres.
Yeah, so clearly a massive advantage for those who did pit under the safety car, and it's really going to be actually quite fascinating to see what happens when those who haven't pitted yet do actually pit for tyres. Now Webster's going to look up the inside of Ethan Warren and James Stewart, and move himself into P2 now. So Warren is going to be losing a lot of time here, and Webster with a 24.3 that last time by, while Warren with a 24.8. So it seems that the tyres have sort of had a bit of a lull point where they sort of equalise themselves out between those that are older and newer. But nevertheless, we'll see how quickly Cooper Webster can work this NASCAR to move it to the front of the field. Here's
Jordan Mulak, one of our regular Just Send It competitors in the number 22 car. It's running a little bit further back in the pack. Jordan Mulak, another one of the drivers who elected to come in for fresh tyres under that safety car. And right now, he is battling it out with Ryan Wood and Ashley Lear. It's on for the lead here. Cooper Webster's got the margin down to only 0.2 of a second. And that's a very easy move. Straight down the inside of Ethan Warren. And the Altus Esports driver, Cooper Webster, goes to the front. And Cooper Webster, another driver who was on the podium at the Phillip Island 500 last weekend, sharing the Altus Esports entry with James Scott.
Yeah, so Webster with a pretty easy and textbook move up the inside of Ethan Warren there at the chicane. Didn't really put up much of a fight, did Ethan? So very big move there by Webster to get up the inside and get into the lead of this race. Now Ethan Warren sitting in second with Shot not too far behind, so still back to second and third being the transfer spots to the All-Star Shootout at this point. But Luke Pink is starting to put a bit of pressure on Job Stewart here in a minute or two, so we'll see what happens here. As Pink's actually got some very nice pace, actually quite a bit quicker that last time by as well, but half a second compared to him and Job Stewart, so would not be surprised if that gap does come down and Pink can find a way on by very quickly.
So both of these drivers are still on their original set of tyres. Neither one of them has come in for a pit stop, so and Cooper Webster back to the lead, but none of the other cars that took fresh tyres have been able to make that sort of progress up through the field. The next best of the drivers to have taken a stop is Blake Purdy, and he's back in 7th position. So some of those other drivers just struggling a bit to make up places, and here is Blake Purdy at the moment, trapped behind Thomas McMillan, and we've got a second safety car intervention. Just when you think that it's starting to settle down a bit, Cameron, another safety car comes up just to spice things up once again.
Yeah, it certainly does. And this is going to really help those who haven't pitted yet, especially with the fact that there's only about 17 odd minutes to go. So we'll see what happens here, and we'll actually be interested to see if those who pitted earlier are actually going to come in this time around. If you're someone like Cooper Webster, you probably would to try and get some new tyres and get some track position back, but we'll have to wait and see what happens, because there's a few drivers here who are going to be taking advantage of this pit stop, and some who are probably just going to pass it on up.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what everybody decides to do, because do you take a second stop if you've stopped already, or do you try and hang out there for the final 15 minutes of this race on tyres that are at this point about 7 years old? Lots of very interesting strategic decisions coming up, that's for sure. But I think that for all of the drivers who are still on their original set of tyres from the start of the race, it's a no-brainer. You will have to stop now, because otherwise your tyres are going to be too worn out compared to those who stopped a bit earlier on. So, yeah, some interesting decisions to be made, that's for sure.
Yeah, there certainly will be for a number of drivers, and I'd say you probably aren't going to want to stay out and try and run this whole race on a single set of tyres. They will last, but you will be very much on struggle street for the rest of this race when we go green again, especially when they're cold, and the fact that they're going to be that old as well. So it's going to be a real challenge for a lot of these drivers, but nevertheless, we'll see probably majority, if not everyone, pit who hasn't pitted, and also probably a few who have already pit again to put on some new nice boots and try and hold the advantage compared to everybody else.
Imagine if Cooper Webster decides to pit again. That'll be twice that he will have to charge his way back up through the field. And yes, he does, but he's actually lost the lead of the race. That was weird. So coming into pit road, Cooper Webster decided at the last minute that he was coming in, and Ethan Warren actually jumped ahead of him on the way into the pits. Check this out. So Warren's already decided that he's pitting, and by the time that Webster decides, it's too late, because Ethan Warren was already there on pit road. So that late decision from Webster to come down pit road has actually cost him the lead of the race at this point.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting to see that happen. I'm Wondering if possibly he'll get a penalty for that, but we'll have to wait and see. But you can see everybody off the jacks and away, and Webster's actually got back by Ethan Warren. So really not much of a gain there for Ethan Warren, if any. So he's not really done much from doing that, but nevertheless, it looks like a few have gained spots by the looks of it. Stewart now into what is P number 3. Williams up into P4 as well. So a few different drivers have actually jumped a few different people. And yeah, I wonder if some drivers have actually possibly taken 2 tyres as well, based on how some of them have jumped others.
Well, there were some differences in the lengths of time that people spent stationary in the pit. So there were some cars that were stationary for about 14 or 15 seconds. There were others that were stationary for closer to 20 seconds. So you could be onto something there. But let's just have a look at the race order and tell you where everybody's at in terms of pit strategy. So Jordan Mulak leads the race. He's only made 1 stop. Same for Lockie Dalton in 2nd position. He's also only done 1 stop. Both of those drivers stopped under the 1st safety car. Position 3, James Golding, he stopped twice. So he stopped once under the 1st safety car, and then his 2nd pit stop happened after he crashed a couple of laps later and got damage. So again, his tyres are a bit fresher than the 2 race leaders, but not as fresh as the drivers who pitted under the most recent safety car. Ruben Goodall, position number 4. He's another driver who stopped twice, but his 2nd stop came before that last safety car. Then we go back to Jacob Onwill in 5th position, Jackson Johnston in 6th position, and then Cooper Webster in 7th as the highest placed of the drivers who stopped under the most recent safety car. So different people on tyres with different degrees of wear. And oh no, a spin at the restart coming out of the final corner, and that is going to create mass pandemonium. And it's Ethan Warren who was looking really, really good in terms of his strategy, but he's lost it, and unfortunately Mitchell McLeod has centre-punched him coming out of that final corner.
Yeah, coming down the hill, not quite sure what's happened. I think he said to check up because of everybody here, and James Stewart's gone up the inside, and unfortunately the gate closed a little bit too quick, and then from then on in, carnage ensued with Blake Purdy, Emerson Harvey, Thomas McMillan, Luke Pink, Ashley Lear, Mitchell McLeod, all involved in receiving damage.
So he copped a tap from Job Stewart, Ethan Warren, so that was what sent him flying around, and then after that it was just a chain reaction crash with the other drivers very close behind at the time, not having anywhere to go. Jordan Mulak currently the race leader, but a few technical glitches by the looks of it at Jordan Mulak's end. His car is blinking in and out of the system, and if too much of that happens, then eventually he will be removed from the race altogether. He's still there at the moment, but he's under pressure. He's got James Golding right behind him, Ruben Goodall in there as well. Less than half a second separating the top 3. And here comes Cooper Webster once again on fresh tyres, charging his way up the order.
Yeah, very, very good move by Webster to take advantage of that era where Ruben Goodall went a little bit deep into the chicane and opened the doors for Webster to go up the inside. And again, Webster making another move on Golding, and now he's right on the tail of Jordan Mulak and going to get this one done probably sooner rather than later as well with the pace that he's had.
So much confidence for Cooper Webster. Twice we've seen that he's had to pit for fresh tyres, and on both occasions he's just sliced his way back to the front of the field. He's got one more car left to pass. Oh, no, contact in the back. Contact with James Golding again. That's the 2nd time that he's hit the fence, being tapped by another car.
Yeah,
and this time it's Ruben Goodall who gets into the back of him. So game over, unfortunately, for James Golding, who had done such a good job to work his way back into a top 3 position after the dramas that he had with the crash earlier on in the race. Here's another replay of it. What do you make of that one, Cameron?
Well, the fact that he just missed the tyre bundle means that car's going to be very, very second-hand, and he actually would have been all right if he hadn't have had that contact and not actually got that terrible of a run that he did. He might have been okay, but unfortunately Goodall probably not quite expecting the checkup, so unfortunately he's going to have dropped down the order with a very damaged car as James Golding, but it's all on here just outside the top 10. Luke Pink trying to make his way on by for 8th place now, and that is the car going off of Jackson Johnson. So Luke Pink up into P8 for the time being.
I'll tell you what, the fight for those 2 spots in the All-Star Shootout, it has come alive. And it's not going to be decided until we get into the very closing stages of this race. At the moment, Jordan Mulak and Kobe Williams are looking like the 2 who are going to go through, because they're currently the highest placed of the drivers who don't already have a spot in the All-Star Shootout.
Yes, certainly. But do bear in mind, those 2 have only done 1 pit stop as well. So those behind are charging very, very quickly. The likes of Job Stewart, Emerson Harvey, Ruben Goodall, Ryan Woodall on much fresher tyres. So it's going to be very, very close come the end of this race when those older tyres start to really drop off hard, when those newer tyres have the advantage. But yeah, we're just going to have to wait here, because it's going to get very, very close very quickly, I reckon.
Well, Kobe Williams, his tyres are the same age as our race leader, Cooper Webster. Yes, he's only done the 1 stop, but that stop came at the most recent safety car intervention. So he didn't take tyres earlier in the race, but the single stop for Kobe Williams has got him at the moment into a situation where his tyres will be in the same condition as Cooper Webster. Jordan Mulak in 2nd position, his tyres are a bit older, 7 laps older to be precise, than the cars that he's battling with at the moment. So Jordan Mulak is the driver who might struggle to hang on when we get into the closing stages of this race. And then you see Jordan Mulak on screen at the moment, coming under pressure from Kobe Williams, who on those fresher tyres has been able to close the gap.
Yeah, he certainly has been able to close the gap rapidly now, and he's going to look to the outside and not quite going to be able to get the move done on Jordan Mulak at the moment. But Mulak runs wide, and it's allowed Williams on it through up the inside on it to the back straight. So Mulak probably starting to struggle with some tyre wear here at this stage, and Job Stewart is not too far behind as well. So it's only going to be a matter of time before Job Stewart is all over the back of Jordan Mulak here, and is going to be able to be on for a possible spot in that All-Star Shootout.
Well, what does Jordan Mulak have left to fight within this last 7.5 minutes or so? That's the big question now, because it was a fairly comfortable move there from Kobe Williams to relieve him of 2nd position. And right now, Jordan Mulak is holding on to what we would describe in Speedway as the transfer spot, the last of the spots that will elevate you into the main show. So Jordan Mulak, 3rd place. He's got 1.3 seconds margin over Job Stewart, but he's on 7 lap older tyres.
So that is quite the difference in terms of the tyre wear, especially in these cars where the drop-off is basically instantly as soon as you've done 1 lap. So it's really going to be a real test to see how well you can manage the tyres at this stage, and whether you can try to hold on to them as best as you can, or whether you just can have to accept defeat and let the guy behind on by. As Stewart is all over the back of Mulak here, and not quite going to be able to get a move done. Looks up the inside though of it. Mulak at the back straight, and is not actually going to get the power down. So Mulak's going to go on by with the crossover and keep that 3rd place. Sorry.
Well, Jordan Mulak's not going to go down without a fight, that's for sure. It looks like the Job Stewart was going to get that move made easily, but Jordan Mulak wasn't having any of it. Did the switchback manoeuvre and was able to recapture 3rd position on the exit of the corner. So Mulak for now holds on to 3rd position. Cooper Webster, your race leader, he's opened up a margin of 6 seconds over young Kobe Williams, who has driven a really, really smart race, it has to be said, currently sitting in 2nd position outright. We saw at the back of the shot there a car diving off into pit lane. And here is that car now. That's Emerson Harvey, who has been in the thick of the action in this race, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's certainly had his hands full majority of this race, has Emerson Harvey. So he's not had the best race, but he's certainly been made to work for it. So very, very much been a very busy boy, but you can see how close Job Stewart is to the back of it. Jordan Mulak's car, he's all over it, trying to find a way on by. He's looking left, he's looking right, he's filling the mirrors and everything to try and make Mulak make a mistake, but it's just not happening. A little bit of a contact, bump it and bump to try and unsettle the rear end of Mulak's car, and it sort of worked, but it also didn't at the same time. And Stewart not going to get the run onto the back straight that he probably needed, but he's still going to stick in the draft and hold on for the time being. He's not got long left to try and make a move, so if he wants to do it, he's got to do it now, really.
What a battle this is. Jordan Mulak, the motorsport journalist who writes for websites like Touring Car Times and has helped out with content for Bathurst 12 Hour and other events. He's trying to hold out one of Australia's best sim racing drivers, Job Stewart, winner of the Speed Cafe GT3 E-Series earlier in the year, but it looks like that battle is finally going to be resolved in favour of Job Stewart. In the end, the extra tyre grip for Stewart on those fresher tyres proving to be too much of an advantage for Jordan Mulak to be able to keep him at bay.
Yeah, certainly. He tried it and tried, but just unfortunately the tyres couldn't quite hold up in the end, and he's going to have to settle for 4th place at this point in time as Jordan Mulak and Job Stewart's just going to be able to drive it away. And Luke Pink is actually not too far behind Mulak here, so Mulak's not careful. We might actually drop further down and just inside that top, just at the back of the top 10. So he's really got to try and look after these tyres here and nurture them to the end of this race while everyone behind him is using the brand new tyres that they've got to their advantage.
Just goes to show, doesn't it, that once the tyres reach a certain point, it becomes very difficult to drive on them. The expression that drivers use is to say that they've fallen off the cliff, and that's when they get to a point where the lap time deteriorates so much that there's literally nothing that you can do to try and hold out cars that are coming up behind you. Really impressed with this performance from young Kobe Williams, though. It started a little bit further down the order, only chose to make one pit stop in this race, but has shown really good pace. It's been a very mature drive from young Kobe Williams, and right now he's looking very good for a spot in the All-Star Shootout.
Yeah, he's actually driven very well as Kobe Williams. Young driver, up and coming actually. So he's done very well to end up coming home second here at this stage if he doesn't make any mistakes. But he's been doing some very nice laps actually. So matching the pace of what Job Stewart has been doing, and he's not too far off what Webster has been doing as well. So not doing too bad for himself as Kobe Williams, and going to get himself a spot in that All-Star Shootout, like I said.
Here is Jordan Mulak trying to hold out Luke Pink, and you can see Jordan Mulak really struggling for grip, and Pink senses an opportunity up the inside. They rub panels on the exit of the corner. Jordan Mulak manages to hold on to the position, and in fact, Luke Pink is going to lose a spot to Thomas McMillan. Just the momentum lost, and in fact, it might be 2 spots here because Steve Jansen goes through as well. So Luke Pink, in trying to gain 1 spot, has instead lost 2.
Yeah, not quite an ideal situation for Luke Pink here. He's going to hold off Steve Jansen, but nevertheless, McMillan is on by, and he's going to be on the charge for Jordan Mulak now. So it's kind of a bit of musical chairs as to who wants to give it a red-hot go on Jordan Mulak and try and find a way on by currently, because no one really seems to be able to do a good enough job at this stage in this little group.
Considering that he's been on that older set of tyres, Jordan Mulak's actually done a very solid job of defending his position. Still running in position 4 at the moment, and holding on resolutely against cars that are charging up behind him on much fresher tyres. His tyres are now more than 16 laps old, Jordan Mulak. So he has done a very stout job of defending his position, that's for sure.
Yes, definitely a bit of credit to be said about Jordan Mulak and that he's looked after those tyres very well. Very defensive against Thomas McMillan to try and hold on to that place, and he's just managed to hold on to a little bit of movement under that braking zone, so not quite as friendly as he would like to be, but he's doing a fantastic job nevertheless to try and hold on to this position as best as he can on those older tyres. But now McMillan's going to have Luke Pink all over the back, and Pink's also going to have Jansen for company just behind, but Pink goes slightly defensive on Steve Jansen. Not going to be able to find a way on by McMillan, but definitely a very good scrap for this little 3 cars inside that top 5.
In fact, while those 3 have been battling, it's just given Jordan Mulak the chance to extend a bit of breathing space over them. We are now on the final lap of the race, incidentally, and it's Cooper Webster with a 10.4 second lead over Kobe Williams. We've seen some dominant victories from Cooper Webster in just centre races in the past, and provided he can bring it home without any dramas in this final lap, it will be his 11th race victory in the Just Centred series.
Yeah, quite the record for Cooper Webster in the Just Centred series with the number of wins that he's had. Very, very accomplished driver, so it's no surprise that he's managed to have the number of wins he's had here. But you can see Luke Pink actually pushing McMillan to try and hurry him up down the short chute before they get to the back straight. Looks up the inside towards the back straight, and they actually come together. So now that's going to allow Janssen through, and Mulek's going to be able to hold on for a fourth place here by the looks of it.
Yeah, pretty intensive stuff going on back there, but here comes Cooper Webster. What a performance it's been. 2 pit stops, had to charge his way back to the front of the field twice, but didn't in style. Gets a comprehensive race victory. Kobe Williams, what a great effort from the youngster. This will be his best result in the Just Centred iRacing series, and he is going to the All-Star Shootout on Sunday, as is our third place driver, Job Stewart. So Kobe Williams and Job Stewart scored themselves a spot in the shootout. Jordan Mulek, what an awesome defensive drive from him. Picks up position number 4 at the finish there. And then Thomas McMillan falling back after that contact with Luke Pink. Back to 6th position. Luke Pink 7th. They both finished behind Steve Jansen, who comes home in position number 5. Jackson Johnston in 8th position. Ashley Lear 9th. And Ryan Wood rounding out the top 10.
Then you're going to have Ethan Warren in 11th. Jacob Manuel in 12th. 13th to Ivan Fantiacato. And then you're going to have Ruben Goodall in at 14th. Emerson Harvey rounding out the top 15. And then you're going to have your retirees, James Golding, Mitchell McLeod, Lockie Dalton, Blake Purdy, Matt Morris, Jake Maloney, Jamie Craig, Ryan Allman, Nicholas Scaraju, and Brady Baldwin and Lachlan Maneef.
Yeah, not a great night for Lachlan Maneef, Jordan Crusoe, or Clint Shane Smith. Those 3 cars all retiring very early in the race. But there we go. That's our qualifying race done for the All-Star Shootout. Congratulations to Cooper Webster on his 11th Just Centred race victory, but congratulations as well to Kobe Williams and Job Stewart, who complete our 16 participants for the All-Star Shootout on Sunday, which you can watch right here on the SimSpeed TV network. Hope you've enjoyed this special Friday night edition of Just Centred. On behalf of my co-commentator, Cameron Dance, I'm Lachlan Mansell. See you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh
him.
my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?